myself, and I'm of this task force. At this time, I call a meeting to order, and I'm going to take attendance. So if you are on, and if you're a task force member, when I call your name, if you could either come on mic and affirm your presence or raise your hand. Dory Palkovich. Thank you, Dory. Joanne Uchida Takeuchi. There you go, I'll circle back. Isaac Choi.
Present.
Thank you, Isaac. Could I ask you to please come on camera?
Present.
Thank you. Jared Redula.
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Barrett Otani.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. James Ireland said that he would not be able to attend. Ellen Ching.
Present.
Thank you. Terry Lynn Gorman. Okay, I will circle back. Senator Joy San Buenaventura. Circle back. Representative Ryan Yamane. Okay, we'll circle back. Randy Gons.
Aloha.
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
Wendy Gibson Viviani said that she would be unable to attend today. Nicole Severance. Okay. Garrett Kaladaya.
Here.
Hi, Garrett. Has Joanne, Terry, Senator San Buenaventura, Representative Yamane, or Nichols, has anybody joined since?
That's Joanne Uchida Takeuchi. I'm here. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so that is 9 task force members. We have 4. We can begin. Thank you.
For those members of the public who are watching the meeting on Zoom or listening by phone, we have 3 substantive agenda items today. The first agenda item is a report by Task Force Member Isaac Choi on visits to Care Wailua and Aloha Green and Pompeii. The second agenda item is a task force discussion of the state regulator panel responses to questions from task force members at the May 31st, 2023 task force meeting. The third agenda item is a task force discussion of the summary of stakeholder listening sessions, which have been summarized in a report for the task force. In terms of public testimony, as with previous task force meetings, as testifiers, you will have 2 minutes to provide your testimony on the agenda items. I will give you a 30-second warning, and we'll call time at 2 minutes to provide everyone the opportunity to speak, while allowing adequate time for the task force member to work through the agenda items. Testifier, all testimony will only be heard before each agenda item. Even though today the task force is meeting remotely, we still entertain in-person testimony, then online testifiers, and then phone testifiers. So let's turn to agenda item 2. Is there anyone here in person who would like to testify on agenda item 2? To be clear, that means you wish to testify about the report by Task Force Member Isaac Choi on visits to Care Wailua and Aloha Green and Pompeii. Are you Amy?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Nielsen, please.
Good afternoon, task force members. My name is Amy R. Nielsen. I am a cannabis researcher. I am a cannabis patient here in Hawaii, and I'm also a member of Care Wailua. I was invited by Jason to be part of Care Wailua's meeting with this group. And I was very pleased to meet with those folks and talk with them about our operation down there. if any of the rest of the task force members, specifically those of the clinicians in the area, would like to come and meet with me down at the farm there, I would really like to introduce you to our farm and what we're doing down there. We are a compassion-based farm. We service over 1,000 patients down there. We have plants and patients matched up. We service not only the patients that are not able to get to our dispensaries, but we provide medicine that is specific to those patients. This is a critical infrastructure part of our medicinal cannabis facilities here in Hawaii. And we have the opportunity here to really step forward in the industry here and show how compassionate we can be for our patients using specifically matched medicine to patients in a CSA model that follows the agricultural needs of our communities here to really be able to follow up with the economic portions of this as well. Thank you very much. I take your time.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for being here in person. Task force members, any questions for Ms. Nelson? All right, hearing none.
Thank you very much.
We're now moving, anybody here in person? No, okay. Now move to online testifiers. If anyone online would like to submit testimony on agenda item 2, please raise your hand when I call your name. You will be asked to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. If you feel comfortable, please turn on your camera. Do we have anybody online? All right, we're just waiting to receive the names. Thank you for your patience. I have a Mr. James Anthony. Mr. Anthony, are you prepared to testify?
Hi, it's James Anthony. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you clearly, sir. Please proceed.
Okay. Am I to understand, excuse me, that there is no written report for this agenda item? That the report will be made orally following public testimony?
That is correct.
All right. Well, it makes it a little bit difficulty to give testimony on something that we don't have any idea what it is. So I will, however, proceed just by noting that today, August 2nd, Forbes magazine came out with an article describing legalization to date throughout the United States as botched, I believe is the quote from the headline. And the subheadlines specifically cite overregulation and overtaxation as being problems that have kept the underground market thriving and crippled the attempts of new businesses trying to follow those rules and pay those taxes are going broke and failing. And this has been a great disappointment for people who tried to come out of the medical market, the previous underground legacy market, to try to follow these rules, which has been impossible. Meanwhile, very, very large corporations are just standing by and burning through investor dollars, waiting for everybody else to go out of business when, you know, perhaps surprisingly, the regulations and the tax matters might be solved, or at least they'll be left without any competition.
Please, Mr. Anthony, 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. I love the 30-second warning. So I would urge you to look at that article in Forbes magazine. I did submit it as late testimony online, both the link and also the text of the article. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Task force members, any questions for Mr. Anthony? Seeing none, we're now ready to hear from Clifton Odo. Mr. Odo.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the task force. Dr. Clifton Otto here. Thanks for the opportunity to provide comments on agenda item 2, which I'm guessing is going to include a comparison between dispensaries and collectives. I have not visited dispensaries or collectives myself because of my DEA controlled substance registration, but I think I can make some general comparisons. And I put together a list that I provided in my written testimony that looks at 7 different areas. And what struck me is how the dispensaries are really operating at severe disadvantages compared with collectives. They're highly regulated. They're operating in a closed growing environment, which even with a transparent roof is very challenging for cultivation. Excessive testing requirements that are often unnecessary, and operating where they're having to pay approximately a 70% tax burden. I've been told recently that there are some tricks that CPAs are employing using cost of goods deductions to try and reduce that a little bit. But still, we're just trying to do everything we can to get around federal law rather than address the issue directly. So anyway, I'm hoping that there can be a middle ground where the advantages of both the dispensary and the collective system can be utilized in the future. Those are my
Thank you,
comments, and
Mr.
I'm
Otto.
available for any questions. Thank
Okay,
you.
wrapping up. Thank you, sir. Any questions by the task force for Mr. Otto? Seeing none, we'll move to our phone testifiers. If anyone who called into the meeting by phone would like to testify, please press star 9 or raise your hand, and when prompted when asked, please press star 6 or mute yourself. Do you have anybody by phone? No phone testifiers. All right. Madam Chair, we're now ready to take up agenda item 2, a report by Task Force Member Isaac Choi on visits to Kailua and Aloha Green Pond.
Thank you, please. Director Choi.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. On my end, there's various levels of volume, so hopefully everybody can hear me. I did go to the Kailua Co-op and the Aloha Green Apothecary. I don't even know what apothecary means, but that's where I went to. I never ever visited a marijuana farm, and it was very, very eye-opening. I went as a law enforcement official, and I brought my law enforcement team with me. So for the record, let me just tell you who went on the tours with me. Kailua Cannabis Co-op, I myself, my tax research and planning official, Dr. Seth Colby, accompanied me. My special enforcement section chief, Gordon Zane, and his team, Ronald Yao, was also with me. The Department of Health also sent Tammy Whitney, and of course, my assistant, Linda Kamarao, was with me for the visit to Kailua. I just want to state that for the record. As far as Aloha Green was concerned, I myself went. I was fortunate enough to have Representative Ryan Yamani. Again, my Special Enforcement Section Chief Gordon Zane and Ronald Yao was there. The Department of Health sent over Tammy Whitney, and of course my assistant Linda Kamarao was there for the visit to Aloha Green. I also sent my tax research economist, Dr. Seth Colby, to the Big Island to inspect or visit Big Island Grown. We're trying to get as much background as possible. Again, we're not in the marijuana business or anything, so it's good for us to see what these operations are. Of course, I'd like to thank Jason Hanley at Kailua. He was our tour guide, and actually it was very, very good to hear him talk and explain his operations. And then, of course, at Aloha Green, we had Tai Cheng, Andrew Lee, Daniel Richardson, Sarah Vasga, and Michael Lee, explaining their operations, not only at the farm, but also at the dispensary on Nimitz Highway. Those are all the people that went on the tour. As far as my insights on the tour, obviously, I don't know if any of you guys went to these 2 places, but it's really a great experience. They're really, really nice people, and they'll show you everything they got. But as I looked at the 2 different operations, one a cooperative and one a dispensary operation, it's so different that obviously the regulations are not being enforced equally. It just can't be, because the two operations are too diverse. They do two different things. They're not on an equal playing field. I'm not opining here which one is correct and which one is not correct. But again, it's an eye-opening experience. Other than that, I just like going out there, and I think other people should go and really see what the operation is all about. But at this particular time, I'm not going to form any conclusions. We got about a couple more months on this task force. It's just a part of my process to make sure that I'm well informed of the processes, and of course my team is informed of the processes. And that's all I really got to report.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. I want to ask the task force members at this time if they have any questions or comments about what Director Choi shared. If so, please state your name so we know who is talking.
I've got a question.
Please.
Sure. Director Choi, just inquiry of information. Did your team happen to inquire or gather any information about how the cooperatives or collectives are structured? Cooperatives, collectives are usually member-owned, member-managed. Is this what you guys have found at the farm?
So Randy, that's a great question. We did take some notes on the structure. It's easier for Aloha Green because they're just a partnership. So that's something that's pretty easy and recognizable. At the co-op, it seems that we will. This is unofficial, but in my impression, some people own the co-op and they're actually using the term rent to derive revenues from that. I actually bought a T-shirt for $30 rent. And I don't really know what that is, but that's how much they charged me, $30 rent for a T-shirt. It was a cool T-shirt. So I thought I'd get that. So no, but at the end of the day, we will know the structures. Obviously, my team are looking into that.
Thank you. Task force members, any other questions or comments based on what Dr. Choi shared?
Terry Gorman, representing Mayor Victorino, County of Maui. I apologize for being late. I had a meeting that ran too long this morning. I also have a question. Were you in the Karewailua environment? Did you ask, and is it happening that sales are being conducted and revenue being recorded as rent, like the T-shirt you purchased?
Oh, there is definitely transactions on the site. I witnessed several, I guess you call them patients or customers, taking a lot of marijuana, a lot meaning bags and bags of marijuana, putting it into their backpack. I saw hundreds and hundreds of dollar bills being placed on the table, including my $30 for the T-shirt. And as far as the recordation or accounting records, I did not inspect them. Perhaps one day I will, but not at this particular visit.
Any other task force questions or comments based on Dr. Choi?
I have one more question. Is the
Sure.
state of Hawaii collecting taxes on these rent revenues?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question that I cannot answer. All compliance initiatives that we do, law enforcement initiatives, are confidential, confidential to the taxpayer too. So I can't opine on any compliance initiatives that we'll be initiating from our visits.
I understand. As a former small business owner that paid a good percentage of my income in GET taxes just for services rendered, I think that's an important question that needs to be asked. Thank you.
A little percentage, not a big one.
Well, when you're living on revenue from services, it's a large percentage of revenue that
It's
goes.
4%.
But then layer on that your income tax to the feds and the state and every other thing that you have to pay. And believe me, it all adds up, especially if you have to pay others because you're paying it 2 times. So again, that's my opinion. It's not a legal opinion, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other task force members, questions or comments based on what Dr. Choi shared? All right. Seeing none, we'll now turn to agenda item 3. Is there anyone here in person who wishes to testify on agenda item 3? All right. So to be clear, if you wish to testify online or by phone, this is about the upcoming task force discussion of the state regulator panel responses from task force members at the May 31, 2022 task force meeting. If anyone online would like to submit testimony on agenda item 3, please raise your hand when I call your name. You'll be asked to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. If you're comfortable, please turn on your camera. Do we have any online testimony?
I apologize, Jennifer. Can I interrupt just for a
Of
second?
course.
I did want to acknowledge, in addition to Ms. Gorman, I noticed that Representative Ryan Bonnie has joined. And I did want to ask Representative Yamani if you could please come on camera and compliance. Thank you. Good to see you.
Aloha. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Representative Imani. Clifton Otto wishes to testify on this agenda. Mr. Otto, please proceed.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Clifton Otto again. Thanks for the opportunity to comment on agenda item 3. I particularly found Wendy Gibson Viviani's very broad question to the panel about scheduling and overregulation and how that might impact research and banking and that kind of stuff. And I thought that the answers were rather interesting. Colorado mentioned that there were no accommodations to protect employers. Michigan mentioned lack of employee protections along with banking, and Washington mentioned banking as issues that they really don't have any solutions for right now. Some of the other areas that are being impacted here in Hawaii are federal housing, medical, life, temporary disability insurance, inter-island transport, firearm ownership, and use of medical cannabis on campus or in hospice or long-term care facilities. I just spoke with 2 patients last week who are dealing with the housing issue. One who is in federally subsidized housing, is at risk of being evicted. The other living in private dwelling that is applying the state's definition of smoking, which is very broad and making it difficult for residents to use cannabis for medical purposes. So anyway, this is something that's still going on and affecting us, especially in Hawaii. I think it's something that needs to be looked at
Dr.
further.
Otto, that's 30 seconds. I'd ask you to wrap it up if you could. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think this is still something that needs investigated by the task force, and I'm not buying the conclusion of your previous presenter that suggested that a step the state could take with a federal waiver is invalid. So thank you for considering my comments. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, task force members, for Dr. Otto? Seeing none, we're ready to hear from James Anthony. Mr. Anthony.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
We can hear you clearly, yes.
Good, good. I'm actually just outside. I'll be stepping into the meeting shortly. Again, you know, my sympathies go out to those who have been tasked with regulating cannabis at the state level. Some of them going back 10 years now in Washington and Colorado, and those others that have joined more recently, and perhaps Hawaii soon to become among them, but you know, certainly for the Department of Health as to the medical program with the dispensaries and whatnot going on for some time now. it is a very difficult task, and I think it is made more difficult when the philosophical framework is unclear and continues to be one that treats cannabis as though it were some kind of dangerous or deadly substance. It is not. It is extremely overregulated. And then again, when it's treated as something that is somehow going to be some kind of huge cash cow to government, that doesn't help because it sets these unrealistic expectations, which then make it extremely difficult for the licensees, for instance, the dispensary operators in Hawaii, to operate, and it encourages the underground market. So, given all that, it is a very difficult job that the people who came and shared their time and their thoughts with you have. And we have to keep in mind that they are government employees who, of course, are trying to make the best of it. And it's not always possible for them to speak frankly, nor are they likely to be critical of their own programs. And so I do encourage you to seek other outside sources, including the Forbes article that I submitted to you electronically, albeit late. Not difficult for you to find, although I did cut and paste the text for you in case you run into paywall problems, etc. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in a moment.
You're now at 2 minutes, and we're gonna ask the task force if they have any questions about what you shared. Task force members, any questions for Mr. Anthony? Seeing none, do we have any other online testifiers? No. Do we have any phone testifiers? Is this online? Online. We have one task force members. We have one more online testifier.
Is that me?
Okay, and this is Princess Leilani Maiwa Kaina, last name Kaina. Miss Kaina, are you there?
I'm trying to get on. Okay, let me see. Can you hear me? Oh, can you see me? Okay, now I see. Okay, thank you so much. Aloha. My name is Princess Lehuanani Kuma Eva Kaina Kaleo Momona. I've been doing cannabis since I was 14 years old. I just made 60 in February this year. That's a long time smoking cannabis. I am in good health until I got off cannabis. And the doctors put me on prescribed pills where I almost died from all the pills that they gave me just to try to help me and calm me down. That now I cannot take pills at all. So now I only take cannabis, which I call Maui Waui. I'm from Maui. I live on Oahu. Some of the things I'm facing right now is that now I've been going to the dispensary for the past, 4 or 5 months since I got my card. And I tell you, I have a good experience with them. I've been to 2, one on Nimitz and now one in Kapolei. They're very clean. I like when I go in, I feel safe. They have a security guard up front. The one in Kapolei, Cure. They get what I need. I don't have to go out on the streets and buy no more, because I got sick buying on the streets because, it was out there. It wasn't available for me like now it is. And I got sick because they put fertilizer on the outside street cannabis. So I want to thank you, Task Force, so much because that's what we need right now. We need to have monitoring, regulation. And I'm also looking at, and you guys working out in some kind of violations.
You have 30 seconds to wrap up, please.
And I also want to say that because of this, I want to see if you guys can work out where you can have my insurance. I have good insurance. I'm paying a lot of money right now just to get my cannabis that can help me every day. So I'm asking if you guys can help with the insurance, and my insurance can pay for my cannabis. Also, I'm asking for the HUD. I'm in HUD right now. I'm like a criminal because I cannot even use my medication in my own house. I have to go down to the park and smoke.
I
And I look like a
apologize,
criminal.
but I'm gonna ask you to stop at this point. We've exceeded 2 minutes. So
Thank
we'll
you so-
ask- You're very welcome. Unless if the task force has any questions of the last testifier, task force members. Seeing none, thank you so much. Does that do it for task force? And you said no phone testifiers? All right. So Madam Chair, we're now ready to take up agenda item 3, a task force discussion of the state regulator panel responses to questions from task force members at the May 31st, 2022 task force meeting. Anything you'd like to open up with?
No, just if there are any questions.
Sure, I'm happy to lead that discussion. Task force members, any questions or comments based on the panel responses to the questions that you had posed? All right. Hearing now, we're going to move to agenda item 4. Is there anyone here in person who wishes to testify on agenda item 4? No. All right. So let's turn to online testifiers. And again, to be clear, this means you wish to testify about the upcoming task force discussion of the summary of stakeholder listening sessions in a report for the task force. If anyone online would like to submit testimony on agenda item number 4, please raise your hand. When I call your name, you'll be asked to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute. If you feel comfortable, please turn on your camera. Do we have any online testifiers? Thank you. Dr. Otto, you're up.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to comment on agenda item 4 from the stakeholder listening sessions. It looks to me from the notes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different groups: patient caregivers, current certifying clinicians, dispensary licensees, public health and prevention, behavioral health and treatment, which I'm assuming is addiction medicine specialist, public safety and law enforcement. And then I went and looked at which of those groups are represented on the task force. And it looks like all of them have representatives if you consider the patient advocates, except for currently certifying clinicians, which I take to mean their primary healthcare activity is certifying patients, and behavioral health and treatment. So the task force might want to include in its final report why it decided to omit those, just so people understand why that group was not included on the task force. I also did a word search of the listening session responses for the word federal, and it came up twice, once in the patient caregiver group and once in the dispensary licensee group. Did not appear in the certifying providers group, which I was surprised about. But hopefully the surveys that were recently issued that I believe have a question about this issue will shed some more light on this situation. Those are my comments. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions, task force members, for what Dr. Otto has shared? Seeing none, do we have any other online testifiers? Do we have any phone testifiers? Madam Chair, we're now ready to take up agenda 4, agenda item 4, a task force discussion of the summary of stakeholder listening sessions and a report for the task force.
Thank you. I just invite task force members, if there are any follow-up questions that you have, I'd be happy to convey those to Joe and Shower.
Task force members, any questions that you would like the chair to convey on your behalf based on what you read in the listening session report? All right, I don't hear any or see any. So Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. I just want to let everybody know our next meeting is scheduled for August 29th. At that meeting, we will begin the report outs for all the permitted interaction groups, or the the working groups, that have been, busy doing research on the various topics. We hope that we will be able to complete the report outs on that date. If not, then we will either continue at the next scheduled meeting, or if we think it's necessary, we may have to schedule an interim meeting in between. So I'm both letting task force members know that that's a possibility, as well as letting the public know. Other than that, all of the agenda and meeting materials will be made available as usual on the Department of Health's website. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.